Hi, my name is Kirthi Jayakumar and I am the founder of the Red Elephant Foundation and I am from Chennai, India. We work on civilian peace building and gender equality using technology and digital media advocacy as our primary platforms. Since its founding in 2013 up until now, the Red Elephant Foundation has told stories of survivors, change makers, activists and people who have made vast differences in the social spaces around them, shifting mindsets in favor of gender equality, peace, education, and conflict resolution. As a peace builder, as someone who's worked in this field for a while, for 6 years now, I've been able to bring to the table my learnings from different deployments, different associations and initiatives. And the conglomeration of all of that has been in the form of the Gender-Based Violence Help Map at the Red Elephant Foundation. Set on an Ushahidi crowd map, the Help Map maps together services across 196 countries with the lone exception of Syria, obvious reasons, the civil war. And these services provided are listed according to categories, namely legal services, medical services, education and employment opportunities, police services, ambulance services, resource help in the name of food, shelter, clothing, emergency support, consular and embassy services, and refugee-specific services. Now, each of these units have been mapped and placed on the website after being verified in a 3-step verification process. Since the time we did a soft launch of the map in June this year, where we had only about 70 countries mapped back then, all the way up until now we have 196 countries, we've been able to help close to 1,000 women who have faced violence in different settings, whether it was a conflict or a post-conflict or an intimate partner setting, or even a stranger on the street. And these women have been able to not only find medical help in the immediate aftermath of the violence, but in the cases where they wanted to press charges, they were able to find the closest legal help provider. And after that, for those of whom who moved out of intimate partner violence settings or moved to a different country after facing a conflict situation, they were easily able to use the resources available to find employment, education, and even simple unemployment exchange services in the countries that they found themselves in. Now, this story that I share with you really just started as a one woman, one laptop, one dream goal. I was sitting in my room, ruminating over an incident that had happened a few days before this actually started rolling. I usually sleep very little, anywhere between 2 to 3 hours a day, and that's been the kind of cycle that I've been used to since I was very young. But this one day, the 6th of May 2016, I went to sleep at 10 p.m., very unlikely of me. And I woke up the next morning at 6 a.m., again very unlikely of me. When I woke up, I found 16 missed calls on my WhatsApp call panel, and it turned out that a friend of mine from the UK, who had recently settled, all of about a year and a half ago, had tried to reach me 16 times and I wasn't able to answer her. I tried calling her back, but the number would just ring on WhatsApp, and when I called her actual number, it was switched off. I called her mum, who was also as frantic as I was to try to reach her, and about 24 hours later, her mother called and told me what had happened. Now, this girl, for the entire span of a year and a half since she left Mumbai to settle in London with her husband, had faced a situation of intimate partner violence, where her husband was beating her every day. And he didn't just stop with beating her, he also put her through the entire locked-in-the-house ordeal, where she was not allowed to socialize or get out of the house, or much less even hold a job. She did not have access to the internet through a laptop or a computer, save for her smartphone, and she was not given access to anything beyond the basic necessities that allowed her to exist. She wanted to get out of that relationship really badly, but hadn't had the opportunity to reach out to anyone in a concrete way for several reasons: fear, worry, anxiety, the need to want to make it work, and much more. Eventually, she managed to find a tiny loophole when her husband was not in the house and he had left the doors unlocked, which meant that she had the route to escape. But she had no idea where she would go, and knowing the only person who she deemed was worthy of asking, me, the information that she needed to find out as to where she had to go for help around her, she reached out to me. But I wasn't available and she didn't have information. Nevertheless, she realized that this was an opportunity that she may never get again, and finding that loophole might be a big rarity in her life in the future if she let it pass. So she left the house that night, wandered all the way to the closest railway station, switched train after train after train until she made her way to one of the suburbs. She tried asking for information, but was not exactly fluent in English and was often frowned upon for being an immigrant. Eventually, she managed to find a way out to the closest shelter using the word of passers-by and people on the street, not even sure if the shelter was really one that would provide for her needs. Luckily, it was. She managed to contact her father a couple of hours after the entire incident had begun. Got in touch with him, sought his help, and asked him to come to the UK to get her. Today she is out of that relationship, on her way to getting a divorce, and is in the process of finding psychological help to help herself stand on her feet after 1.5 years of terrible trauma. But that incident made me think, how many women in that situation really need help but aren't able to find a resource to provide them that help? How many women in a situation like that are actually in need of authentic help? Help that will not recriminalize them, help that will not corner them, and help that will not let them slide back into that space of violence. It also made me realize the power of technology, because here was this woman who wasn't able to get online on a laptop or a computer but had a smartphone. And instead of relying on the word of Google because she wouldn't know whether a service provider was authentic or not, she chose to reach out to a friend miles ago, cutting across time zones, who unfortunately at that point was sleeping. I realized at that point, quite like most other situations that have taught me the truth, violence takes away your power to control a situation, to control your choices, and to be able to exercise your right to make those choices. And I wanted to create a tool that would help these women in situations of a similar sort reclaim that control and take charge of their lives and get out of violent situations. While I realize that the idea remains important to shift mindsets, and it is something that the Red Elephant Foundation focuses on through education programs, gender equality and violence sensitization programs, it's also something important to understand that there is a gap in the here and now, that when a person faces violence, they really need the help that will help them set their spaces free, safe, and give them the protection they need at that particular point in time. Eventually, it led me to do a lot of research on tech-based tools, tech-based apps, and tech-based directories. The first step I decided for me was to figure out what organizations I would start curating. And when I had a solid number with me, with the help of my team of 10 volunteers, all sourced and solicited through the UN online volunteering website, I realized that there was a necessity to display this resource, this directory, this database. And while we were looking to display it in a manner that would also help people access it, we also realized that if we helped visualize the data, even providers of aid would not be reinventing the wheel. They will be able to find out exactly where there are gaps, exactly where their services would really make the greater impact. And so we set about putting this together on a map. Once the map came alive, we began understanding that there were more specific needs, because we only started with legal help, medical help, resource help, education and employment help. Soon we realized that women who are overseas would really need to find help to get back home. We also realized that there were women who were in a refugee situation who may not be able to find help for gender-based violence in a foreign country. So that led us to mapping consulates, embassies, and refugee-specific gender violence support. And today, the Ushahidi Crowd Map has close to 7,000 entries across 196 countries, with a few organizations in Syria that provide dedicated, war-related humanitarian aid. As a peace builder, as a gender equality activist, as somebody who's always wet behind the ears when it comes to new technology, making me a constant learner, I've been able to see that there's a tremendous amount of learning necessary. And one of the most important values that one has to work with is to collaborate and not compete. I, as a woman sitting in Chennai, want to make a difference to women world over. And not just women, but to any survivor of gender-based violence world over. And I'm not going to be able to do that until I'm in a position to collaborate with other organizations. Collaborate how? By listing them on the map, by seeking them out, by asking them to provide or pay forward in any way possible to a survivor. The Gender-Based Violence Help Map has given me the opportunity to do that, and I try to make something out of it every day. Pretty soon the map is going to become a mobile app, and we're also working towards developing wearable smart jewelry, tech-based jewelry, that will also help women not just pull up their phones and access it physically, but really sort of push a button on any piece of jewelry on their body and pull up the resources that they require and need to find information for. Thank you for listening to me and to my presentation. And I'd really love to welcome all of you to engage with the Red Elephant Foundation and with our gender-based violence help map, and to pay forward by allowing more and more women to understand and know the resource and seek help when they most need it. Thank you.